Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming to our board meeting. This is the Board of Education's annual reorganization meeting. Please be advised that this meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, otherwise known as the Sunshine Law, and that adequate notice of the date, time, and agenda has been sent to the Asbury Park Press and the news transcript and has been posted and filed with Marlborough Township Clerk. Copies have also been sent to each district school and other newspapers. There is a statement of videotaping of the public portion of the board meeting, public statement following for Robert's Rules of Order. There are no smoking of school grounds. If everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. No. Is Carol coming? I'd also like to announce that we do have an Emerald level sponsor, Tara Gostovich, a local dentist. She is our Emerald level sponsor for the 14-15 school year. The results of the election that was held on November 4th, 2014, total ballots cast were 8,931. Total votes for the 3-year term, Debbie Despina Matos, 4,372. Craig Marshall, 3,944. We had write-in votes of 1,237. Joanne Lou Riddell was 299. Robin Wolf was 294. And Cynthia Green was 216. Now I'd like to administer the oath of office to our incoming board members, Mrs. Matos, Mrs. Lou Riddell, and Mr. Craig Marshall. If you would join me. There's a pen. Good.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, here's the state line voice. I'm going to read, but you can read right along. Okay? So that I'm not. So I state your name.
Greg Marshall, do solemnly swear that the oath will be the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of New Jersey, and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and this state, and the authority of the people, so help me God. I, Greg Marshall, do solemnly swear that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of member of the Board of Education, and that I am not disqualified as a voter pursuant to RS 19-4-1, nor disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense listed in NJS 18A-12-1, and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Yay!
Please sign. And sign there. We've got a pen. And then, no, wait a second. Oh, it's showing another sign. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now I'll do a roll call. Mrs. Dean.
Here.
Mr. Dwyer.
Here.
Mrs. Ennie still has her headache. Mrs. Cow.
Here.
Mr. Lewanski. Mrs. Rudell.
Here.
Mr. Marshall.
Here.
Mrs. Matos.
Here.
And Mrs. Rosenwald.
Here.
Now, our next order of business is to elect a board president. Now, I will open up the nominations, but before I do, I will explain that if there is more than one candidate for the board president or for the vice president, both candidates or multiple candidates each will be able to make a statement. Then when I take the roll call, you must tell me verbally who you are voting for if there is more than one candidate. So I will open up the nominations for board president.
I'd like to nominate Michael Lalansky for board president.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Do I have any other candidates? Nominations are closed. The vote. Mrs. Cow
Yes.
for Mr. Lalansky.
Yes.
Mrs. Riddell.
Yes.
Mr. Marshall.
Yes.
Mrs. Matos.
Yes.
Mrs. Rosenwald.
Yes.
Mrs. Dean.
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer.
Yes.
Now, normally I would get out of this chair faster than anything you've ever seen, but unfortunately, because Mr. Lalansky is not able to be here right now, I'm going to do the same thing for vice president. So I'm going to open up nominations, and again, just to remind everybody, the same process carries. If we have more than one candidate, each candidate will be able to make a statement. Then I will do a roll call, and you will state who you are voting for. So I'm opening up nominations for vice president. Debbie?
I nominate Victoria Dean.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you. Any other candidates? Nominations are closed. Vote. Mrs. Rosenwald.
Abstain.
Mrs. Dean.
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer.
Yes.
Mrs. Cow.
Yes.
Mrs. Rudell.
Yes.
Mr. Marshall.
Yes.
Mrs. Matos.
Yes.
Motion carries. It's all yours, madam. Congratulations. I'm going.
On her corner.
I'm going to my corner. I'm very happy over here.
I'll do the handoff.
Yep.
Okay. Hi, everybody. How are you? So we are here tonight, and we're going to recognize two amazing people, one of which I don't believe Carol snuck in, right? No, Carol? Carol served one term, which is still an amazing feat, and Cynthia served for 25 years, which is just unbelievably amazing. Recently, Cynthia sent an email out to the administrators, and it was really powerful because she, right in the middle, she put a line that said something to the effect of, "I believe I hired almost every one of you." And you read that, and it was really powerful. And I thanked her for hiring me because it was truly amazing. I don't think the average person can understand what 25 years on a board of education is. And I know that we haven't been together very long, but it's the most amazing thing that, the people and the children of Marlborough have been blessed, very blessed to have you. So at that point, I'm going to hand it over to Vice President Dean.
We would like to recognize our outgoing board members, and I'm going to do the honors of that.
This is Carol's. Do you want to read it?
I'll read it.
Yeah.
Okay. Presented to Carol Gambardella in grateful recognition of your dedication and integrity while honorably serving the Marlborough Township School District, April 27, 2011 to January 6, 2015. And I'm sure Carol's at work, and that's why she couldn't get here, but she was a phenomenal board member, and we will miss her expertise when it comes to numbers and budget. I know the board would agree with me on that because she was one to really keep on task with that. So thanks again to Carol Gambardella.
That's the plaque. We'll do that first.
Think you're going to sit in the audience? 25 years? Nope. Front and center, Cynthia. Presented to Cynthia Green, in grateful recognition of your dedication and integrity while honorably serving the Marlborough Township School District, April 24th, 1990 to January 6, 2015, as Board President, 2003 to 2005, 2008 to 2010, as Board Vice President, 1992 to 1994, 2000 to 2003, 2005 to 2006. Congratulations. But we're not done with you. I'm going to need that. What I'm reading is on this beautiful plaque that the district has prepared for her, but I'm going to read it off the. You can read along with me. Make sure there's no grammatical errors because that was your expertise. We all know that. Whereas Cynthia Green was first elected to the Board of Education of the Township of Marlborough on April 24, 1990, and has graciously served in this role for 25 years. And whereas Mrs. Green exhibited such extraordinary dedication to the district and its staff that a resolution honoring her cannot do the scope of her service complete justice. And whereas during her 25 years as a member of the board, she has immersed herself in all aspects of curriculum, finance, personnel, and policy, and having gained such tremendous knowledge, was voted by her peers as board vice president for 3 separate terms, 1992 to 94, 2000 to 2003, and 2005 to 2006, and as board president for 2 separate terms, 2003 to 2005, and 2008 to 2010. And whereas, when requested, she applied insightful and thoughtful analyses and ample intuitive skills to the tasks placed before her. And whereas, during these 25 years, lest we not forget, that Ms. Green also served most notably as board liaison to the PTA, PTO scope presidents, and on many board committees, most notably as chair of the construction committee and of the negotiation committees for the Marlborough Township Education Association and Marlborough Cafeteria Aides Association. And whereas, while this resolution brings special and well-deserved attention to Mrs. Green's immense talents, it also reflects the gratitude of the school district to which she has shown such a strong allegiance and given so selflessly during the current and past years. And whereas the staff of the Marlborough Township Board of Education, who were so fortunate to work with her, will feel an unfathomable loss, for she so generously and with a big heart offered her friendship, patience, wisdom, and time. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this Board of Education not only wishes to acknowledge, but will also deeply miss Mrs. Green's engaging personality, kindness, intelligence, and most of all, her love and commitment to the community of Marlborough Township. Be it further resolved that the Marlborough Township Board of Education, acting on behalf of the community it represents and the students it serves, expresses an enormous debt of gratitude to Cynthia Green for having given so unselfishly her time for 1/4 of a century. And finally, be it resolved that this resolution be spread among the minutes of this meeting, an official copy of it be framed and presented to Mrs. Green, January 6, 2015. On behalf of the board, Cynthia, we're going to miss you. And thank you, and for demonstrating to us and to me how to serve as a lady. And keep it together up there. Thank you. And you're going to be missed. And I'm going to open it up to public comments now because there's quite a few. So I don't know if you wanted to stand or sit. And if you... Yeah, so if you want to speak, anybody else, if you had not signed the board, you're welcome to sign. But if you were to speak, we have the first person that's coming up, and that is Dr. Marquez.
It is not without a little bit of trepidation that I come before you this evening, not only to pay tribute to Cynthia, and good evening, members of the board, and Dr. Hibbs. It's that I'm a little concerned about reading my comments because I'm afraid when I hand them over to Cynthia She's going to take out her red pen and correct it so I went through quite a few spell checks on this one, Cynthia, I want you to know, and grammar checks. Okay. I don't know if it's a pleasure being here tonight, but it's nice. It is with decided mixed feelings that I speak this evening. My first thought when I heard that Cynthia Green would not be returning to the board for another term was that I knew how disappointed she would be, but happy that she would have the opportunity, after so many years of service, to enjoy some additional free time with her family and for her other interests. I then had this feeling of deep disappointment that the community would not have the benefit of her long experience and profound wisdom as a sitting board member. I suppose that she could return and share both now as a member of the community, but it just wouldn't be the same. My time working in the district roughly coincided with Cynthia's lengthy time serving on the board. I am deeply grateful that our paths crossed, and for so long, as she was a dedicated public official, as both a member and as a leader of the board. But she was more than that. She represented a style of public service that frankly is not seen very often anymore, and that was selflessness. In her dignified, polished, and articulate manner, she exemplified what an effective board member should be, placing the needs of students above all else. She came to each board member or committee meeting with a clear focus to conduct the public business in a thoughtful, considerate, and circumspect way. In all the years that I worked with her, she refused to engage in trivial or petty issues, far afield from the reasons the community had elected her. Her views have always been balanced and fair-minded. And while you may have occasionally disagreed with her conclusion on an issue, it was difficult to challenge the logic she brought to arriving at it. She was certainly no pushover for the administration. She asked tough, penetrating questions that sometimes we overlooked, but she always did so respectfully. In brief, she made administrators better than we would have otherwise been. More important than that, Cynthia, you made the district so much better than it would have been had you chosen not to serve for as long as you did. When I retired more than a year ago, Cynthia and the rest of the board honored me by having this room named after me. She also had some pleasant words to share about me at my retirement party. So in many ways, I wanted to be here to reciprocate. I can only put it this way. Whatever my contributions were to the district during my 26 years, I was paid for my work. Cynthia, you were not, yet you treated your position almost as a full-time job. I trust that tonight and in the future, you will appreciate and internalize all the wonderful work you have done for the thousands upon thousands of students who have attended this school district during your long period of service, and that you realize that those who admire you, as so many present here tonight do, also reflect the sentiments of so many who are not here. In all, they want to express overwhelming and heartfelt gratitude for your exemplary and unwavering dedicated service to this community. I'm going to leave this with you, Cynthia. Please get back to me in a few years.
Mark, I'll take that.
I don't know who else is on the... Next, we have that would like to speak about Cynthia is Dr. Robert Klein, Board of Education.
Hi. So I'm here wearing two hats. The first hat is as president of the Marlborough Township Administrators Association, and thank you for hiring all of us. Do appreciate it, especially me. I want to thank you for all the support you have given us through the year. Through the years, you certainly have enabled us to be great administrators and to provide great educations to the kids, and for that we really thank you. The second thank you I'd like to give you is as Director of Special Services and all the support you've shown special education through the years. To reiterate what Dr. Gassworth said, I've always found when I've been on the hot seat here, your questions to be fair to be pointed and actually to help me reflect on issues. And for that, I thank you, and I do thank you for all the support, because I believe it has made this district special ed program a very special special ed program, and you are part of that. So I thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Warren Brummel?
Rommel.
Brummel, sorry.
He's lived with us for a while, so that's why we kind of know him.
Well, I didn't prepare a statement, but I just wanted to tell a story. In April of 1993, a neighbor prodded me to run for the Board of Education. I had no idea what a Board of Education did. I'd never been to a board meeting. But I said, oh, that sounds like something good for me. So I end up on the ballot and go to a meeting, and the meeting went on and on and on. And I said, oh my God, I can't do this. So I did nothing to get elected. And my neighbor, who asked me to come on the board, said, you have to go to this Meet the Candidates night. So I go, and Cynthia, who was running for re-election, gave her little speech. And I turned to my wife and I said, I'm going to vote for her. Because it was eloquent. She was so informed, so intelligent, so obviously impassioned, and so committed to the students of this district that I said, we really need her. And the worst thing that would happen is she got me. Well, through a weird set of circumstances, I ended up getting elected. I won by 70 votes, and that started a 15-year journey onto this Board of Education, off and on as both an elected and appointed member of the board. And I was also here and hired many of these administrators. But the one thing that was a constant through all of it was this wonderful lady, who it was so headstrong in her commitment to do the right thing for this district. And I really am so upset that she's not going to be here, and I just hope that the members that are on the board now have learned as much as they possibly could from her to see what it is to be committed, to always think what is the right thing to do for the students of this district. We're going to miss you terribly. And on behalf of everyone, every time I go past the Cynthia Green School, I know they call it the Marlboro Middle School, but I never call it that, because that school was built by this woman. And every time I go past there, I think about you. You know, one last thing. I was president for 1 year. She was the vice president. Really didn't work out that way. What happened was I sat in the president's seat, and she would lean over and say, you need to do this, you need to do that, say this, say that. I'd call her. When the votes would go around, I would say, I'll come back to me. I'd wait to see how she voted. I said, that's probably the right answer. So we're going to miss you terribly. Thank you so much for all that you've done for the town. Thank you.
There's nobody else on here, but
Anybody else want to make comments? Offer any comments? Craig, you want to do yours?
Thank you. Well, hello, Cindy. I'm actually going to be speaking on behalf of Michael Bowman. He regrettably was not able to attend. Before I read his comments, though, I want to echo everybody's sentiments. I have so much respect for 25 years. It's just incredible. And thank you, as I was one of the administrators that you did hire. So thank you. It's an honor and a privilege to work in Marlboro and to work with, for this board. So thank you. All right. So, and since this is from Michael Bowman, you do not have to worry about any kind of grammar mistakes. I have read it 3 times to make sure there were words that I knew I could pronounce, so hang in there. The regret that I feel in not being present to deliver this testimonial in person is surpassed only by the regret I feel at the departure of Cynthia Green from the Marlborough Township Public Schools Board of Education. Well before I became an educator in our district, Mrs. Green had begun her remarkable service. Remarkable is indeed the adjective that characterizes her service to our students, faculty, and administration by several parameters: its length of time, its breadth of responsibility, and its depth of dedication. As a teacher and through the tenure of several supervisors, I had the pleasure and privilege of serving with Cynthia Green on quite a few committees, whether standing ones such as the Gifted and Talented Review Committee, or ad hoc ones such as several text adoption or program revision committees. Mrs. Green impressed me from the start as an individual with extraordinary knowledge and the wisdom that comes from knowledge applied in solving practical problems. She spoke eloquently to, navigated diplomatically among, and exhibited genuine concern for the entire spectrum of stakeholders in our district. Cynthia Green's attendance at certain special events that were made possible by grants I received from the Marlborough Education Foundation and other organizations, such as a poetry writing workshop with a guest poet that spanned several months and included several grade levels at Robertsville, were made even more special by her presence. From my perspective, Mrs. Green's energy was always most focused on curriculum and instruction as the essence of education, but beyond that, this energy was most apparent in the delight she showed when the curriculum manifested itself in creative ways and in the creativity of students. I discovered over time that Mrs. Green and I shared not only certain interests in the fine arts, in French language and literature, in research and scholarship in many fields, but also perspectives on education, our district, and the future. In no small way, Mrs. Green's acknowledgement of the role I played in writing curriculum over many years encouraged me to become a supervisor of curriculum and instruction. I appreciate her influence in this sphere of my activities, and I wish that my position as an administrator in the district had overlapped with her tenure on the board for more than 1 year that it has. The name Cynthia is an ancient Greek epithet for the goddess of the moon. It's a very Michael Bowman statement. Yet, unlike the moon, whose light is merely reflected, Cynthia Green shines brightly in her own right, and I hope she will continue to enlighten our work in some capacity as a member of our community. Her significant contributions to and unwavering support of our district will not be eclipsed. In acknowledging the loss to our district with Mrs. Green's leave-taking, I am consoled by the fact that my ophthalmologist, Dr. Stuart Green, has expressed great happiness at the prospect of spending more time with his wife, our own Cynthia Green. I wish them both every happiness.
Liz is gonna. Cindy, can I say something? Sure, come on. This is Dr. John Shepin.
Kind of board member that Mrs. Lee was. This is just a footnote. It's a very short footnote. I'm Jonathan Shutman, served here for 18 years. What I remember is, and I think, I remember a conversation. It doesn't matter what the particulars are. I don't know if you remember it. But Mrs. Green came to me, and we had a conversation about an area of curriculum that she had very strong opinions about, with very strong opinions about it. And the district at that time was considering making certain changes, and she wasn't sure those changes were really in the best interest of kids or what have you. And what impressed me was that she actually reached out to us and wanted to know what we thought and had that kind of flexibility to actually, it was a kind of, I felt, it was a kind of respect. And to come to the principal and to come to some of us to ask us some questions about what we thought, and I think that enabled Mrs. Green to actually consider a change that at that point in time was being thought about in terms of curriculum. So just a footnote of the kind of board member that I believe really does serve the best interests of students. So thank you, Cynthia. Yeah.
Can you just give her the mic, Jonathan,
Yes.
please? Sorry.
In response to that, I would like to add that I always found all of our administrators and supervisors to be extremely generous with their time when it came to talking to me, because they were the people I would go to learn about the curriculum or to run something by them and see if they thought it was valuable or workable. So right back to you. Thank you very much.
Who? Yes, after me, Cindy. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Liz Walsh, and I've been here since 1995, and Cynthia also hired me. Tonight, I'm here to read a statement from a former curriculum director, Tom Nicola. And the statement begins with a question. What will you do with all the free time? 25 years. What a testament to your commitment to excellence for Marlborough students. But I guess we both have a love for the Marlborough schools since I stayed for 34 years. Your desire for what was best for Marlborough students was what I admired about you. You were selfless, and although we didn't always agree, the end product that we developed resulted in what was best for the students. Over the years, you served on a number of curriculum committees. I remember two committees in particular, testing and world language. They were extremely challenging, but the end product was worth the effort. Now you can relax and be proud of the positive impact you had on the Marlborough School District. Thank you for supporting the efforts of the curriculum department. You are in my thoughts tonight. Love, Tom Nicola. And the second piece was, he asked me to give you a hug.
I have comments from Mr. Mark Lorenzo. Yes. See, we did reach out a little bit to a few people. So here's what Mark had to say. For those who might not know me, my name is Mark Lorenzo, and I've served on the Marlborough Board of Education with Cynthia for 9 years, between 1995 and 2005. I'm very sorry I can't be there personally tonight to honor Cynthia, but I hope I am able to convey how fortunate Marlborough has been to have Cynthia Green represent us on the Board of Education for over 24 years. When I think of the extraordinary school board members in Marlborough, especially in recent years, Cynthia Green stands alone. While her accomplishments are many, what stands out most to me is how Cynthia, on a day-to-day basis, advocated for all of our children. Cynthia was always active, sought ways to help our children, whether it was as a board representative on various curriculum committees or as the district grew as a board's lead representative on the construction committee. Her outstanding interpersonal skills worked to the board's advantage when Cynthia represented the Board of Negotiations committees and as a representative to the municipal government or as a liaison to the PTA Scope President's Council. I know from sitting next to her at the board table for several years that Cynthia brought passion and insightfulness to every board meeting. She always took the time to carefully consider the implications of any decision on which she was asked to vote, and then explain always articulately the basis of her decision. I learned a lot from her today, and today I am proud to consider her my friend. Although recently I retired and my family and I have moved out of Marlborough, as a former resident of the town of over 20 years, I want to publicly thank Cynthia for her contributions to the Marlborough School District, including her role in bringing outstanding and high-quality leadership to the district, ensuring our schools not only served but exceptionally served all of our children, and for making the Marlborough School District as extraordinary as it has been and continues to be. Mark Lorenzo. I'm going to...
If everybody can give up a copy of what they read.
I'm going to try to do this and getting through this, and this is very short because I wouldn't make it. I couldn't let tonight go without saying something for Cynthia. You are the last of the board members who hired me back in 1997. That makes 18 years. My, have we come a long way. We have built 2 buildings and done many more things, from teacher negotiations to budget to construction projects. It seems we have covered it all. I have always admired how you thoughtfully and deliberately spoke on subjects at hand, especially curriculum, your passion, with the goal of doing what was always best for the students of Marlborough. From my perspective, having served with over 75 different board members, Cynthia represents what and how a board member should function in the role. She always comes prepared for the board meetings, reading all the many, many mounds of information sent home in preparation of such, researching topics for board discussions, and if needed, listened to others on their opinions or recommendations. I will miss her greatly. She was always the light who I could turn to for a smile or comforting words. Cynthia, I'm so proud to call you my friend, and that you will always have your annual delivery for Hanukkah. And P.S., George is also a patient of Dr. Stuart Green, and he says, I know I'll keep in touch, but he also wishes you well, and thank you for being there for his wife. Thank you. Instead, I wrote just some random thoughts. And I started with one that hopefully is funny so that I'll feel better and be able to continue to dress. In March of 2008, a student in Mrs. Spitalny's 4th grade class at Asher Holmes wrote the following thank you note to me. Dear Mrs. Green, I was so excited when you came to read to our class on Read Across America Day. It was the first time I ever got to see a person that was from a Board of Education meeting. And that was, I guess, what made him excited. In the spring of 1990, the first time I ran for the board, my own children were 8, 11, and 14. One at Robertsville, Mr. Shipperton, one at Marlborough Middle, and one at Marlborough High School. Today, my 3 children, 2 of whom are here tonight, my oldest daughter, Rebecca, and my son, Jeffrey, they're a little older, and I now have 3 fantastic granddaughters, one of whom will likely be attending Marlborough schools when she's old enough. So I will continue to watch what goes on. Uh-oh. My tenure on this board included, and this is really hard to believe, almost 1,000 Tuesday night board meetings. Wow. Think about it. Remember that in the olden days, we met every single Tuesday night, every single month. And literally, I've attended daytime committee meetings, hundreds of daytime committee meetings, 99% of which were a total joy. I won't talk about the other 1%. Preparing for those meetings and attending them certainly provided structure to my week. And I think that's going to be one of the hardest things for me now, because I won't have my Monday to prepare, and my Tuesday to go to my board meeting, and my construction committee, and my gifted and talented committee, but I'll find something to do. Over the years, I've had the good fortune to work side by side, and that's the operative word here, side by side, with 4 very different superintendents, 1 long-term and wonderful assistant superintendent, at least 1 principal and 1 vice principal from every building, with dozens of administrators and supervisors generous with their time for me, hundreds of talented staff members and support staff, many, many PTA, PTO, and scope parents, and dozens of different dedicated and caring board members. I want to thank my family for almost always understanding why I needed to be here in the boardroom on Tuesday nights with my fellow board members and not at home with them. Upon my election in 2003 as board president, the news transcript printed an article which included the following. Quote, Green said she is interested in accomplishing what has always been her goal, doing what is best for the kids of the township
and doing it with integrity and grace. Those two words, integrity and grace, have always been my guiding principles, and I hope that I have been true to them many times over. It has been a truly great run, and I'm going to miss everybody. Thank you all for coming. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, he's got it.
Cynthia, I'm glad I made it. While you're still in here, Cynthia. So, no, again, I know Vicki had some words already, and the board had words already. Vicki informed me, but I can't let it go without having a few words myself. So, 25 years. I just can't explain the gratitude on behalf of all the boards of education that sat here over the 25 years that you sat here as president, vice president, board member, et cetera. Well, president, vice president, board member, though I remember. It was a pleasure serving with you when I sat next to you. And as I moved from chairs to the presidency, to the vice presidency, I enjoyed having you as a mentor. I think you gave me probably more advice than any other board member ever did on this board. How many mornings did we talk on my way to work? Many mornings that she gave me her wisdom and her thoughts and her knowledge of how a Board of Education should work to help me and learn my direction as running a Board of Education. So I want to thank you for all that as well. And I wish you not a full retirement. I hope you come and visit and enjoy your time. And thank you again for your 25 years on behalf of everybody here. So thank you. Everything else is done. Yeah. Okay, so I believe it's time for our recess, so we can all rejoice here and welcome our new board members. All right, we're back in session, and that'll bring us to our first public session, open to any item. Any member of the public who wishes to address the board, you just need to sign the clipboard there, as well as your name and address into the microphone. Does any member of the public wish to address the board on any item at this time? Seeing none, we'll move forward to page 4, Organizational Matters. Mr. Dwyer, please.
Organization matters. The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. Number 1, attendance officer. Number 2, affirmative action officer, school and classroom practices. Number 3, affirmative action officer, employment practices. I so move.
Thank you, sir. Seconded by Victoria. Any discussion on organizational matters? Seeing none, Cindy, please call the roll.
Mrs. Ennie?
Yes.
Mrs. Cow?
Yes.
Mrs. Lou Riddell?
Yes.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mrs. Matos?
Yes.
Mrs. Rosenwald?
Yes.
And Mr. Lalansky?
Yes.
Thank you.
Brings us to financial and business, page 5. Do we have any changes?
Can you step back?
What?
Oh, I'm sorry.
You no
I'm
longer
sorry.
love me?
Yeah, me and John did.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I went down and didn't go back to the top. I'm sorry. Mrs. Dean
Yes.
and Mr. Dwyer.
Yes.
I apologize. I'm sorry.
Okay, I know they moved me closer to the door, but don't push me.
Yeah,
I
you're almost out the door,
don't feel so
John.
unloved. I don't feel so bad.
We have wooden
Yeah. I think the jokes that are going to come from this side are going to be slightly tilted on this side.
Is he that bad typically? Is that the problem?
I state your name.
Okay, yes.
He had to start off, right?
Yeah, he did. We had the comedian and it started.
Yeah, it's.
I'll have to watch the video.
Yeah.
Do you have any changes in the financial business?
Just in the spots, it'll be President Mike Lalansky, Vice President Victoria Dean.
Okay.
That's it.
Bonnie, do you mind reading, please?
Financial and business operation matters, the superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. 1, banking institution signatories. 2, approval of depositories. 3, petty cash accounts. I so move.
Thank you, Bonnie. Seconded by John. Any discussion on financial and business? Seeing none, Cindy, please call the roll.
Mrs. Lou Riddell.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Marshall.
Yes.
Mrs. Matos.
Yes.
Mrs. Dean.
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer.
Yes.
Mrs. Ennie.
Yes.
Mrs. Cow.
Yes.
Mrs. Rosenwald.
Yes.
Mr. Lalansky.
Yes. Debbie, policy, page 7, policy development and community relations.
Sure. Policy Development and Community Relations matters. The superintendent of schools submits the following resolution for approval. 1, governance manual. I so move.
Thank you, Debbie. Seconded by Craig. Any discussion on?
Michael,
Yes, sure.
I just wanted to make sure the approval that we have here, there are no changes, there's no difference from the 2015 board reorg meeting? Are we looking at the same?
Governance manual, it's the same, right?
It's what is in place right now.
It is, no, it is different from last year's.
What's in
Besides
place
the
right now.
Yeah, it's no different than yesterday's, I think.
Right.
So it would be different from last year's because there would have been
It is, but
change.
not-
It would have been changes that we made all throughout the year, but it's not
Throughout the
different from
year.
anything that
Right.
exists right now in policy
Yes.
or reg.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Anybody else on policy development? Seeing none, Cindy, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dean.
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer.
Yes.
Mrs. Ennie.
Yes.
Mrs. Cow.
Yes.
Mrs. Lou Riddell.
Yes.
Mrs. Rosenwald.
Yes.
Mr. Marshall.
Yes.
Mrs. Matos.
Yes.
Mr. Lalansky.
Yes, that will
you.
bring us to our final public session, open to any item as well. Anyone from the public wish to address the board on any item? Seeing none, I will read the executive session resolution. Be resolved that in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, the Marlborough Township Board of Education shall conduct a closed executive session pursuant to personnel and legal exceptions prescribed by NJSA 10:4-12 for the purpose of discussing the sale of the Morganville School and a student matter. Anticipate the length of time the session will be 20 minutes, and the action will not be taken in public at the executive session. Be further resolved that the minutes of the executive session will be released when the need for confidentiality in accordance with NJSA 10:4-12 no longer applies. That is seconded by Debbie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody against? No. Motion passes. I'll make a motion to adjourn to executive session, seconded by Victoria. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody negative? Nope. Okay, passes. We are now adjourned to executive session. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Congratulations.